Hello and welcome to the Alternative Film Podcast. Today we have director Brett Kelly as our special guest who made Jurassic Shark, Raiders of the Lost Shark, and other non-shark related films. So there's also a lot of not necessarily shark movies in his filmography. And we'll talk about all of those, what he's up to these days, and how the business is changing, but also about the unreleased film Ouija Shark, which I personally find very intriguing. Enjoy the episode and let us know if there's anyone you would like to have on the show. This is Angus and Christoph from Alternative Movie Society, introducing director Brett Kelly of Jurassic Shark, which we had our screening recently, to everyone who saw it, and we collected some of your questions and some of our own questions. Yeah, lovely to have you, Mr. Kelly.
My pleasure.
So you just said before we started that you loved it. We actually asked you about the film because there's a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of interviewing going on. So right away, how did the whole filming go? How long was the shoot, for example?
Well, I'll start by I'll go a little bit farther back, and I'll tell you the origins of the idea. So I was the idea behind Jurassic Shark came about. I was we'll time travel back to, I can't remember the year, but there was maybe 2009 or something like that, and the Asylum was doing a bunch of films like Mega Shark versus whatever they were versus there was a bunch of stuff, Asylum shark movies, and Sharknado wasn't a thing yet. Sharknado wasn't even an idea at the time. But the Asylum is doing a bunch of films, and I thought, well, I would love to work for these guys and feed my children with the money that they pay me. That would be fantastic. So I had the idea to do I was going to do an aquatic creature film, but I didn't know what. So I was trying to kind of brainstorm, and at one point I have a treatment for something called mores, which does not roll off the tongue. Okay. And so I was taking a shower, and I was just kind of brainstorming, trying to think of what's a catchier title. And then I was like, Giant, Mega, Jurassic Moray. That's stupid. Jurassic Shark.
Wow.
It came to me. And then the next day I was invited to a film festival in Buffalo, so I drove down to Buffalo, and they showed one of my films, and someone asked me what I was working on. Then I thought, I will try out this title and see what the crowd reaction is. So I said, well, I'm working on an idea called Jurassic Shark, and the entire crowd, there was a wave of, oh. And I went, okay, I think I'm onto something. Yeah. So I went and made the film for about 10 or 15 grand American, Canadian.
That's that's a question we'll get onto later about
but I mean
how that was done. But it's still very impressive to make a film on that kind of budget.
Yeah, it's peanuts, really. It's an Asylum film would probably be $500,000, and we did it for 15,000, and and it was fewer than 10 days. It was probably 9 days, 7 to 9 days.
Is that including editing, or is that is that just the camera filming and stuff?
No, that was just the editing. It was 7 to 9 days, and then I think I spent about 6 months editing, probably.
Yeah. Okay. That's more realistic.
I'm pretty sure I did my own sound post on it.
Was that did you do all the editing yourself?
Yeah, I can afford me, so I did.
Okay, yeah, that's it. We watch a lot of niche movies in our society, and I would say the CGI in the movie was actually very, very fun, and also I would say charming, because many bad films that you see, or like films on a small budget, you see like they just intercut to some CGI scene and that's it. But here we actually have some scenes where
it's really cool how you tried to despite your limited filming schedule, you still managed to integrate your CGI into the final. You know the scene where the shark flies out the water, which is really quite shot. The Free Willy shot, where it flies out the water, then magically does a turn in midair and manages to fly back in.
Well, it doesn't actually. That's a frequent criticism.
Oh, okay.
It actually. Now I will take the blame for perhaps not establishing it properly.
Okay.
But they were actually on a plot of land with water on either side.
Okay. So that
So
was
they jumped over and into the water on the other side. I think that now I haven't watched it in a long time, so either the audience just doesn't notice because of where I put the camera, or it's there. And see, the interesting thing about these shark movies is, now I'm not saying you guys did, but a lot of people watch them with the intent of, right from the get-go, they feel like this is a film they are going to be smarter than.
Okay, fair enough.
So a lot of people watch it going, all right, I'm going to wring my hands together and say, let's find the faults, right? So, but I will err on the side of taking the blame myself and saying that I didn't establish that properly.
Yeah.
Probably due to my truncated schedule, that we just kind of got the shots and I just banged through the shots. But it was actually a plot of land that the shark, when it jumps over, there's water on the other side.
Did you shoot the film on an island? Like
No.
Question, but...
No, not even close. It was a friend of mine lived on a piece of land that had a warehouse and, what do you call it, a quarry.
Oh, it was a filled-in quarry.
Yeah, so it was a quarry where I guess rainwater had filled it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the best place to swim, but we did nonetheless.
Yeah. And it looked good.
It's the kind of place that has signs saying deep water, do not swim.
Yeah, that's right.
Jump in.
Megalodon may be within.
Mm-hmm. Talking about shark movies in general, and because you mentioned Megalodon, obviously.
Right.
So do you stay up to date? Do you watch blockbuster shark films, for example, when they come out, or are you?
You know what? I don't. I avoid shark movies, and I have a lot of friends who have made some of the other shark films you've probably seen, and it's almost, I kind of use the analogy: if I worked at McDonald's all day, I don't want to be eating hamburgers all night.
Yeah,
so
that is fair. Yeah.
I've made so many shark films now, or so many films, that I don't want to necessarily be watching other people's shark films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that being said, I was interested in seeing Meg, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
And my second favorite film of all time is Jaws. So
Okay, that's fair. Would you say that was in part an inspiration?
No.
Okay, that's fair.
It was completely influenced by the desire to try to do what Sci-Fi Channel and the Asylum were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who wrote a Sci-Fi Channel movie, and he had told me what their formula was, because they actually have a formula where every 7 minutes a kill has to happen, something.
Oh, really?
So we were trying to follow that formula, and then of course it didn't end up that way, but close, pretty close. And then of course a few years go by, and then the film ended up getting released in very many countries. And then as a result, Jurassic Shark has been illegally pirated in every country in the world, in every language in the world, and downloaded over 100 million times.
Do you consider that an achievement?
A dubious achievement. I've been bitter about it, but then again, the contract I signed, I wouldn't be making a nickel anyway.
Oh.
So from any sales that followed my making the film. So it's been kind of a strange journey, because it was literally just intended as an exercise to make something similar to Sci-Fi Channel. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of blown up into this thing where at one point, I don't know if you guys know this, at one point it was the #1 lowest rated movie on IMDb.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Ever, of all movies.
And another dubious achievement.
It was not only a dubious achievement, but it was a strange thing where people would email me assuming that I thought it was a compliment. And it took me a while to interpret it that way. So I was, it would be like people calling you up going, "Hey, did you hear you're really ugly? Everyone says so." And you go, "Thanks," but I don't know what happened. I think it was just this massive, it got pirated all at the same time. And the word Jurassic turned into a curse in a way, because people assumed negatively that I was trying to rip off Jurassic Park, like I was trying to do a mockbuster. But it wasn't. It was literally just a joke title. And then I think the UK released it with a Jurassic Park logo type of
Yeah.
DVD.
We actually own that copy. Yeah.
Give me a second. I'll go and get it.
Yeah.
And
we actually own a copy, so yeah.
And I had no say in that. That was I literally hear about the foreign releases and then I buy them on eBay. So
yeah, exactly.
So I think I have that one. I might.
So yeah, we have a Jurassic Shark.
Yeah,
with
that's the art.
The UK logo. Yeah, exactly.
And I of course have nothing to do with that.
But it's interesting. Yeah.
What was the wait? So did you? What was the process of that? So did you sell the rights to the film you made to a production company? And
a distributor probably.
So you sold it to a distributor where they have all the rights to the film, and you like don't have any say about it now. Is that the arrangement?
Yeah, there's a company. I won't name them because they're jerks. But okay. So this is a bit complicated, but I made the film as a 72-minute film, and then this company wanted it. So I made a deal with them. They were going to sign it, and they were going to pay me whatever sum of money it was, and they were going to then submit it to distributors all over the world. And then what happened was they decided it was too short for, I think their excuse was iTunes or something.
Yeah.
Which is baloney. So anyway, they wanted the movie to be 79 minutes long. So if you're wondering why, the pacing is weird. I always get blamed for this, and once again, it's a distributor thing. But so some scenes that weren't in my cut of the film are in there now, and so they released the movie as a 79-minute film. They gave me a sum of money, and that's that. I don't see anything else. But the thing that they were a little bit crooked because once they had the film, they then came to me and said, "Oh, well, it didn't pass quality control, so we're going to pay somebody to fix the film." And I said, "Well, why don't you just have me fix the film, and then you don't have to pay anybody and whatever." And they said, "Oh, and we're going to dock you some money.
Wait,
You're not going to get all your money because we have to fix it." And I said, "Well, who's fixing the film?" The person fixing the film is the person who decided it needed fixing. So they've essentially guaranteed themselves a paycheck. So yeah. They didn't give me all the money they owed me. And then the movie came out and it exploded all over the world. And somebody's making a lot of money off it, but it's not me. So now it's my own fault for signing that kind of deal, but it has come out everywhere. Mm-hmm. However, the interesting thing is you'd think that with a film that's been seen all over the world, at one point was the lowest rated film on IMDb. I have not received any of the notoriety that, say, a Tommy Wiseau has.
Yeah, but Tommy Wiseau is a very special case of that.
Yeah, he certainly is.
which is like you have what would seem to be a fairly normal personality.
Yeah, I would hope so.
It doesn't
disagree.
I mean, and obviously you didn't have the massive budget that Wiseau had, and B the number of production problems that he had. Well, we don't think so. We might get onto that.
Yeah. I'll see what triggers, what memories get triggered.
Yeah,
that's fair. You had a lot of people ask about the cast. How did casting work? Were they friends or were they professional actors?
That's funny. That's a funny story. I'd worked with some of the ladies before. I can't remember the timeline. No, I think this was the first for some of them. Christine Eames, who's the lovely redhead with curly hair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This may have been her first film for me.
This was her first one listed on IMDb because there's I looked her up. I looked her up afterwards, and it was first, but she's been in like 4 or 5, I think, or maybe more, but it's 4 or 5.
Yeah. So nice, such a kind person. She's beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside. Wonderful person, new mother, amazing lady. I love her. I'd work with her again in a second. Then we had Celine Filion, who I don't think I worked with her before, but I'd met her before. She was super cool as well. And Emmanuel Carrière may have been her first as well. I had the ladies come out and they auditioned, and the poor souls had to audition in swimwear.
I mean, they spend most of the film in swimwear.
Yeah, and it's poor me, I know, but I wanted to make sure because I didn't know sometimes people might have a tattoo across their chest that says Pepsi Cola or something, and then that becomes a problem. So now the problem I had with casting was the villains. I think I used everybody that auditioned for the villains. Maybe like I had very few people come out and audition for it.
Well, there were like 6, weren't there? Like because obviously you got the 3 that make it most of the way to the end. One of whom is like Mr. Muscle. He was
right.
He was an audience favorite.
Yeah, no. He was an audience favorite because if you remember, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but there's a scene in the dark where they're meant to be sleeping, and he's like hunched over, and it's clear he's literally just flexing his muscles on camera.
He was eating grilled chicken the whole time because I think he was getting ready to what do you call it? Compete in a bodybuilding event.
Yeah.
He certainly looked the part. Yes.
Yeah, Duncan Malloy, super nice guy. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a college class a couple years ago, and somebody I wasn't announced as the director of Jurassic Shark, and then it came up that I was the director of Jurassic Shark, and this kid burst with excitement, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I love that scene where that muscle guy took his shirt off and threw it on the floor."
Oh yeah, no.
And I'm like,
I remember that.
That's your favorite thing about the movie is the guy took his shirt off and threw it on the floor. It's a funny scene because he's clearly just trying to establish that his shirt is no longer going to be on, and that is exactly what it was. He's like, can I lose my sweater? I'm like, yeah, go for it. Figure out a way to get it off.
No,
because he didn't want to wear it for the movie.
Yeah. So personally, and I think many of our audience members who watched the movie would agree with me on this, my favorite scene was right at the end of the climax where he's lighting the dynamite, right? And he gets hit on basically his death scene. It's the greatest thing ever. Anyone who hasn't seen Jurassic Shark should definitely watch it. It's worth for that scene alone because it was such an unexpected scene. Great. It was just great.
He gets hit with a foam rock and then blows up.
Exactly, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I mean that's what part of monster movies is, shark movies more specifically, I guess. I mean fun death scenes that are creative are one of the highlights, I would say.
It's we're not trying to cure disease, we're trying to just have a good time.
Exactly, that's it, yeah.
Well, I mean, you made us have a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Right, let's go.
One other funny story about Duncan, if I may.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Because he was so muscular and training for a event, he was trying to get his body fat down to the smallest amount possible. So he was actually colder in the water than the ladies because he had no fat to defend himself from the cold. So he would be turning blue, and these slim ladies would be throwing blankets on him to make sure he was okay.
Oh,
so the women were protecting him.
Yeah. Because we just said like about funny death scenes. What are other things that you would say? I mean, you talked about the 7-minute formula before, but are there any other things that if I went out to make a shark movie, what would basically?
Or just using the sci-fi formula. What are the other like parts of it?
Yeah, well, the trick is apparently to have a death or action scene every 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I have never timed it to see if we've done that. And also have a kill happen before the credits. Or what they would say is before the commercial or before the first commercial break.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, that explains your final scene. You know your final scene in the film, which is these two random old dudes who are incestuously talking about the daughter, which was a touch to say the least.
Yeah.
And then they both get eaten by a shark jumping over the top. That was.
What's funny about that scene is it raises a question that nobody asks.
Okay. Will there be a sequel?
Well, no, that's the first one they all ask. But the question is, I've been criticized by people saying, well, there's no way, and obviously a lot of this comes down to budget, but there's no way that's a giant megalodon because it comes so close to shore. right? Things like that, like the ridiculousness of it. First of all, who cares? It's fun. But second of all, how many sharks are in the water? We've established two, but nobody knows that until the end. So for all anyone knows, the offspring that's mentioned in the end is one of the two sharks in the water. Nobody knows. So the shark so no one's ever posed this, but what if the shark that comes closest to shore is the offspring?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Just putting it out there.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Well, so that will be something that has to be solved in the expanded universe
That's right.
of Jurassic Shark.
That's right.
Have you considered making a sequel to it?
Kind of, yeah. When we did Raiders of the Lost Shark, it was at one point talked about trying to bring back Christine to be the professor and kind of making it a quasi sequel. But then that kind of got junked. But I've recently come up with an idea for a sequel, but I don't think I technically have the rights to do one.
The irony.
But I can do another shark movie with the same cast, and who would say, right? But I have an
unofficial sequel,
idea.
so to say.
Yeah, okay. It would be unofficial if I did it. I don't currently have any desire to, because I'm a little bit thin-skinned overall, and there's been so much criticism. That's one thing I would say if someone were to say to ask me about what would I say to future shark movie filmmakers, I would say, just so you know, people want to feel smarter than these movies, and they will rake you through the coals to make you to make themselves feel more intelligent. Even if it's clear parody, and you are like Raiders of the Lost Shark. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's it was made to punk the critics.
Yeah,
because it's bulletproof. It's so stupid. It's designed to, if anyone takes it seriously and gives a highly critical review of it, the joke's on them. Was the idea. And people do. I mean, the movie starts off with a joke. It basically says, "Don't take this movie seriously," and people still are like taking that seriously.
Yeah.
But to make a short story long,
go for it. We've got some time to fill up.
I do have an idea for a instead of calling it a sequel, I'll call it a movie that could exploit the notoriety of the first one.
You could call it Cretaceous Shark.
Oh, I got a good title.
Yeah, another time period. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a really good one. Yeah. Talking about critics, I think there's a fine line. As you said, with it's a shark movie, it's fun. Who cares if it's shallow?
Now that being said, I am perfectly open to having fun with it, and if there's anything you guys thought was stupid, feel free to let me have it, and I will tell you what the story was behind it, because there's a story behind all of it.
How does one obtain parts of human legs? Is a question from David.
Yeah.
That leg has been in more movies than some actors I know.
Oh wow!
Really?
Yeah, that specific leg. I think I bought it. I might have bought it at a Spirit Halloween or something, and it's actually not too bad. I mean, it's as fake legs go, it's fairly realistic looking, comparatively speaking, of course.
Yes.
What's funny about that leg is I remember when the reviews first started coming out, someone was like, "That leg is so fake." To which my answer is, "Of course it's fake.
Yeah.
What else would we do? You know, we're not going to kill poor Kyle Martellacci and take his leg off for real, for the amusement of the masses. I mean, that's not worth it." So, but that leg was also in a movie I made called Homicycle, where we beat a woman to death.
Of course you do. About a homicidal cyclist by any chance?
Yeah. A homicycle cyclist, basically. Motorcycle guy.
Oh, I thought you meant bicycle.
Yeah. So, no.
Yeah, some
homicycle.
Yeah, some riding around on a bicycle who then just cuts off somebody's legs and beats somebody else to death with it.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
It could be fun.
That's the sequel.
Yeah.
And it's been in other movies too. I think it was in Ghastlies, which is a Gremlins type homage movie I made. And then I ended up a screenwriter friend of mine bought the leg off me, and she has it now. So to each their own.
Wow. Okay.
Has she used it? Has she used it in any of her films, or?
I have no idea what she wanted it for, but you know, some of the things I've sold over the years from films, you never know what people want them for.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. What I wanted to say before is that I think it's an important difference of critics who try to pick a movie apart, even though it's obviously low budget film and all these things.
You were having fun making the film. It wasn't. It wasn't designed to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it was designed to be a serious character study.
No, not at all.
The way a criminal mind can. I don't know. It's when you review a film that there are ways of reviewing films well, and there are ways of reviewing films badly.
Yeah, of course. No.
There was someone who recently, and they've gotten a lot of ad revenue from a review they did of Jurassic Shark.
Oh, okay.
And then someone criticized one of their critiques, and the person went off and was almost crying and things like that because they didn't want to be criticized. I found that very ironic.
That is ironic.
Yeah.
Because you know, I mean, we have the presence of mind as filmmakers to know what's ridiculous. I'm not an idiot. I know, and we find it funny. You know, I mean, for crying out loud, somebody says "your chum, bitch."
What?
You know what I mean? I know that's not Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But it makes me laugh. So.
Yeah, exactly. And humor is subjective. And what some people might consider bad, we consider good, at least in our little society that we've created here. Yeah.
So this is an incredibly intelligent question from Andrew Sullivan. How does one obtain a megalodon for the film, and how many crew members are needed to take care of it?
Well, their agents are a pain to work with.
Oh, really? Yeah.
We had made a shark fin.
Oh, yeah.
To be dragged along the top of the water, but it never made the final cut of the film because it didn't look as good as the CGI. Take that as you will. But I'd asked the effects guy to do a fin and some of the top of the shark, so that somebody could kind of swim along the surface. Yeah. But he only gave me a fin, so there was no way to mask whoever was holding the fin. Mm-hmm. So it kind of looked like just like a person swimming, hold around to keep a fin and not drown.
Sharks have evolved, my friend.
Yeah, that's right. They grow their food on the outside of their skin now. So it didn't make the final cut, but now that fin is sitting as a prop in a movie theater here in Ottawa, Canada, sitting in the lobby with a sign on it saying actual prop from Jurassic Shark.
That's really cool.
So to answer that question, it took 3 people to make that fin happen, and it never made the cut.
How did you manage the CGI? Was that all yourself as well?
No. I don't know if this would be a good lesson for filmmakers or not, because I don't know if the rules still apply. But at the time, I went with the mentality that I was someone looking for an opportunity to get hired by somebody like the Asylum. So I was looking for animation students who were looking for something similar. So I went to and talked to some animation students and said, would you like to do the CGI? I'll pay you whatever minor shekels I had to offer, and your film may get seen. Well, 100 million scenes later, it's definitely been seen. I don't know if they got any work out of it, but I paid a couple of university students to do the CGI, and it wasn't very much, and they did a pretty good job for, next to nothing, really. I mean,
yeah.
Well, there's funny. Someone criticizes like the death of Kevin Priest, who is standing on the shoreline and he gets chomped. They're like, well, if you go frame by frame, it looks terrible. I'm like, well, then don't go frame by frame.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy the moment. And then, but then another person criticized the film, saying that apparently I was an idiot because I was trying to fool them because I was intercutting CGI with footage of a real shark. There's not 1 second of a real shark in that entire film.
Well, that's a compliment to the animation, dude.
Apparently, they didn't even realize they were complimenting me because there's not a second of an actual shark. It's all CGI.
Yeah.
If you go with another question from the audience,
Sure.
We've got what made you pick this script and how closely did you work with your writers? However, we know now that you actually wrote the whole thing yourself.
No, I didn't.
Oh, really?
I wrote the treatment, I believe, or it might have just been a synopsis. I can't remember. But what I like to do is when I come up with an idea, I find it's easier if I write at least a few paragraphs of the story so that the writers have an easier go of it.
To set the tone, basically.
Yeah. So, and I'll basically write out the beats. Like, I want this to happen, and this to happen. And sometimes it's as much as an entire treatment, but sometimes it'll be a few paragraphs. And then I'll work with the writers. And I think I gave David Lloyd a fairly detailed treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote it in pretty quick time based on that, because it's a good way to work, because then they don't have to guess what does Brett like, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
How did you pick the writers?
There's about 4 writers I work with on a regular basis, 3 or 4 writers. And the way it kind of started was, well, Trevor Payer is one of them, and I don't think he worked on this one though. And he and I were in a comedy troupe together. And then David Lloyd, who wrote this one, we met. It's funny, he lives about 4 hours away by car from me, and we met on Fred Olen Ray, the director of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, and he's done a couple shark films himself. He did Super Shark. He had a message board back 10 years ago, and a bunch of us industry folks would go and we would all chat. It was a great message board. It would be all these people who worked on, you know, Dave Dakota would be there, and Jim Wynorski would be there, and Fred Olen Ray, and, you know, all these really well-established people. And, you know, there's Dave and I, we met, and he said he was a writer, and I just touched base with him. And since then we're friends. We'll when we're in each other's neck of the woods, we'll have our wives in us, will join us for dinner, and great guy. So yeah, we met on Fred Olen Ray's message board.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. I wish that board was still around.
Okay, once again, the internet brings people together, just as in this interview. Yeah. Because we don't quite have the budget to fly you out to Edinburgh, unfortunately.
But anytime you're here, feel free to drop by.
Yeah, to one of our screenings. Yes. Yeah.
I would love it. I would love if one of my films would get me a plane ticket to somewhere over there. Being of Irish descent, I'd love to hit that neck of the woods as well.
Very nice, yeah. We will let you know when our budget is high enough for that, which might be never. Never.
I'd give it some time. When we set the memberships a little low, and then we discovered how much production companies charge for film licenses, and it makes you cringe.
Yeah, but
it's great. Mm-hmm. Well, when I'm 80 years old and I get a Lifetime Achievement Award, a dubious one, I will. I'll come over there, and someone will hand me a piece of glass, and I'll hobble on in my wheelchair.
Okay, that's a plan as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are your upcoming projects looking like?
I've taken a bit of time. Like I've had a crazy schedule. I've made something like 31 or 32 feature films since 2001, I think it was. This is the first time I've kind of had a little bit of a break. I shot a Christmas film last year that I just finished and is sent off to distributors, called 'Tis the Season. At the moment, I'm contemplating a couple of scripts. We have some Universal monster type. We want to do some black and white classic monster type things, possibly. Another thought is I might be doing a slasher film, which I've never done, but I kind of want to do something that, because, you know, the thing about shark movies is you're outside a lot and you're wet a lot. So I wouldn't mind doing a film where I'm in my house for a while.
Well, you're gonna film the film in your own house.
Maybe someone's house, at least someone who has a coffee pot nearby.
Yeah, definitely better than getting right to the lake all the time. Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, we will have to check out Raiders of the Lost Shark as well. We'll see if you can fit a screening in for that.
What I like to say about Raiders of the Lost Shark, I say, of all the films I've made, that is one of them.
Yeah.
I made. Oh, here's a scoop for you. I made a third shark film that is not out yet.
Ooh, very exciting.
I made a film for a company called Wild Eye Releasing.
Okay.
I made a film called Ghastlies, which is a Gremlins, Ghoulies type rubber monster film. And they called me and we were talking on the phone and they said, "Do you have anything else in mind like Ghastlies?" And I said, "Well, I have this idea or that idea." And I could tell he was trying to guide me somewhere to hear so I could hear about his idea. So I was pitching all my ideas and I gave some funny ideas and he goes, "Well, horror comedy is really hard to sell." And I'm thinking, "But that's what Ghastlies is." They put out Raiders of the Lost Shark and that's what that was. So I'm like, "Okay, well." He goes, "Have you thought about a shark film?" And I went, here we go. So he asked me for my shark movie ideas, and I gave him a few. And he goes, "Well, how about?" And he threw his title at me, which was Ouija Shark.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's,
and I thought that's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
It's probably not the best.
It's close to the worst, but it's not the worst. So I shot that over 2 years ago now.
Oh wow.
And they've been sitting on it. They haven't released it. They have not released it, and I think some of the cast are annoyed with me that it's not out yet, but I have no say because they paid me peanuts to make it, and I made it for them, and they were supposed to release it, as far as they told me, 2 Shark Weeks ago, which is 2 years ago on Shark Week, and it didn't happen. And then this year, they re-released Raiders with 2 other films on a 3-pack. And so they still haven't released it. But the trailer is on YouTube.
Ah, okay. We will give that a look.
Out there. Somebody ripped the trailer from a DVD and put it up online. And that's the first time I'd seen it. I'd never seen the trailer before.
Wow. Interesting.
So I watched the bootleg of the trailer, and that's how I watch my own trailer for a film.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, Wild Eye Releasing, they also have the rights to Shark Exorcist and to The Amazing Bulk, 2 screenings that we have planned, and they were actually very reasonable and very friendly with the pricing.
Great!
Yeah, so that's one of the positives.
Rob's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Rob from Wild is a nice guy, but I wish they put the movie out because people are bugging me all the time.
Yeah.
Of course. We want
the movie to be out as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It makes Jurassic Park look like Apocalypse Now.
Oh, okay.
It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. I wouldn't say it makes sense, but it's not supposed to. It's absurd. It's Ouija Shark.
What do you expect? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And its budget was $3,000.
Oh wow.
Wait. So Jurassic Shark, you had 10 back in, what was it, 2011?
Yeah.
And now you're on.
Yeah. The industry is becoming a very strange place because due to piracy and things like that, distributors aren't offering the money they used to. That's for sure. So I've started to lean towards making projects I want to make instead of projects that I know I can sell. So there was a time period around the time of Jurassic where I made several films for a company, and it was literally just films that they wanted and they paid me for, and they weren't great, but I was able to pay my crew, I paid my actors, and I fed my kids. But nowadays it's kind of like, well, not every movie is going to make a ton of dough or much of anything. So now I it's got to be for the love of it.
I've actually got a few questions about that in particular.
Certainly.
So how would you say the industry has changed? Say you started making films in 2001. Do you know of Donald Farmer?
I do.
I was reading some interviews with him where he was discussing how the small budget film industry has changed since, say, the 90s to now, because he's been making them since 85, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Well, how did you experience the change?
Don was fortunate enough to have come through the age where he was probably making some big sales in VHS. Back in the VHS days, you could sell a film for $150,000 or something like that, or more.
Wow.
When I came on board right at the tail end of VHS and the start of DVD.
Yeah.
So my first, I would send VHS copies to distributors back then. But my first movie that came out was The Bone Setter in 2001. And my first films, I would see a good DVD release. They would be loaded with bonus features. They were stores, like brick and mortar stores, as they call them, would stock them. It was great. It was excellent. There would be a physical thing. You could sign a DVD for fans.
Wow.
There was commentary tracks. It was amazing, and we were right on the start of something. And the DVD boom was going really well. And then there was a distributor that went under and took a lot of small companies with them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people's stock was held up by this company that then went bankrupt, and then all their stock.
When was this around?
Is probably 2004 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But then there was still things like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and all kinds of other chains.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the time, I mean, the small budget films, we still weren't making a ton of dough, but it wouldn't be unusual to make a film for $25,000, which, we're filming on video, so we don't need to buy film. So doing a film for $25,000 was fine. We could pay our people something, nothing much, and we could get a film out there. And then, but when I started, I'd be doing films for $5,000, $3,000, $2,000, just to try to get it out and try to build a name.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, my motto was, I will make the best film for whatever company wants to pay me for whatever the amount they're going to pay me, and I will. If they give me $5,000, I'll give them the best $5,000 movie they can get.
Yeah,
if they give me
that's very fair, yeah.
Whatever. The downside to that, though, is that the expectation of mine was that people would say, well, if that's what he could do for $5, what could he do for $150? But unfortunately, no one ever says it. They always say, okay, we'll do one for me for $5.
Okay, that'd be a problem.
You end up in a rut. Yeah. At one point, we were making films I made a film with Peter Fonda, for crying out loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I directed Peter Fonda in a Western, and budgets were going pretty well. And then at one point, I got offered to do Creepazoids 2 for Full Moon, and then they offered peanuts. It was like $5,000, and I turned up my nose and I was like, "Haha! Can you believe it? $5,000."
Okay.
Well, little did I know that was the start of a trend where every company was starting to pay that amount again. So it was kind of like a peak in a valley, and the result of that is because physical media is no longer as popular as it once was, and streaming revenue isn't fantastic. So distributors don't get as much money back for the films, so therefore they're not paying out as much money. So, for all the people who complain about the quality of films, the result is that's the best quality we can give you for the money we have because people are stealing the movies. So if people weren't stealing the movies, they'd probably get much better films.
So that's plus, so piracy in combination with streaming services that are also very busy competing against each other, so they pump a lot of money into their own productions. That's fair.
It's crazy. It's I don't know what's next, because the industry is kind of like the Wild West at the moment, where no one has the answers. I'm considering avoiding distributors altogether, because what it is right now is everyone's fighting for peanuts, and then once you get a distributor, you're sharing your peanuts with someone else. So might as well try to get the whole piece of the pie if you can, but who knows? I just signed
if it does get really popular, you don't see anything of it, as with Jurassic Shark, for example.
Right. Yeah. I just signed a film noir I made to a company, and they seem really cool. They have a straightforward contract, and it's on DVD in North America. Or no, sorry, internationally. It's on DVD internationally, called Murder in High Heels, and I own the video on demand rights, and we'll see.
That's really nice. Okay. We'll stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah. To go to follow on from your previous point about being pushed from above by lower funding from distributors, is there also a flooding of the market with kids with say university students with video cameras, making their own say 40-minute films for like $100 or so, and calling it a film?
Well, yeah, there is that, and there's a bit of irony to it. If I were to flatter myself, because I for a while was known as a guy who can make a horror film in 5 days for peanuts and get it distributed. And now there's a bunch of new guys out there, young guys, who are making films in 3 days for no money and getting distribution. And I can hardly sit there and bellyache about it, because it would be hypocritical because the way it's following in the footsteps of people like myself and some of my contemporaries. So I'm seeing a lot of films now that are clearly made by 20-somethings who have learned the wrong lessons from people such as me, which is making a 70-minute film. When we make a 72, 78-minute film, we at least try to have the story progress. And some people are doing things where it's 10 minutes of somebody shopping for jeans.
Oh yes, we have experienced that.
We have experienced a
technically
depressing amount
it's a
of
70-minute film, but there is a glut, and there's fewer distributors to put them out. So I would hazard that's probably why it's taken 2 years for Ouija Shark to come out. It's probably because they have 100 films, because a lot of the distributors I used to sign with don't exist anymore, or they've stopped putting out films and focused on other areas of the business or something. It's not as profitable as it once was, and there's a myriad of reasons, but that's kind of one of the reasons I've been taking a break. I have to decide. It's got to be for the love, because the money isn't what it was. I'm now also doing theater. I'm doing a lot of stage work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's been profitable. So we did a film called My Fair Zombie, and then I turned it into a stage play. So
I would actually go and see that.
It sounds kind of wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah, we adapted my Pygmalion into My Fair Zombie, and then we made a stage play of it. And it's a musical, and it played a theater here in town and sold out. And we're probably gonna remount it, and we're looking at other theater companies who want to stage it, and it's been pretty cool.
That's really nice. Okay.
And I suppose with theater things, there's no real piracy involved.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And no streaming. That's nice as well. Yeah.
And what's fun about it is it's the immediate gratification. Whereas you make a film and you have to wait a year to find out if people love it or hate it. When you do theater, people clap right away, or luckily it's never happened, or they could boo right away.
Okay, well.
And then when you're done, you're done. You don't have to wait, suddenly get someone criticizing you for something that you did 10 years ago. And you go, well, that was 10 years ago. And some of my earlier films are coming out on DVD, video on demand again. They've my films that are so early, I liken it to my crayon drawings on the refrigerator are coming out again. So films I made 20 years ago are about to be re-released, so that's kind of fun.
Okay.
Well, what was it called? Bone Wrangler?
The Bone Setter and
Bone
Feral
Setter,
Man and Final Curtain and the Bone Setter Returns, and possibly some of my other creature features, like I did Pray for the Beast, which that came out in the UK, as I recall. Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck for future movies, because we want to keep watching them.
Yes.
And we will check out more of your filmography. Thank you very much for this lovely interview.
My pleasure.
Right, yeah, it's been a pleasure for both of us.
Yes.
I mean,
a nice look behind the scenes. To actually know what happened.
I'll share with you one other tidbit before we go, if you don't mind, about Jurassic Shark. Would you like to know what scenes were not in my original cut of the film?
I was thinking, I was going to ask that question earlier, but I just forgot it as you carried on.
Yeah, because my original cut of the film that I delivered and completed did not have any of the scientist stuff at the beginning where they're talking about.
Okay.
That was after the fact.
Any of the global warming commentary on that, or faux global warming commentary?
No. And so all the stuff with Dr. Grant, you're digging too deep and whatever. None of that. And by the way, I did not realize Dr. Grant was an homage to Jurassic Park. David wrote that name, and I just was like, all right, it's Dr. Grant. I didn't think twice, and then everyone's like, oh, look how smart Brett Kelly thinks he is. He thinks blah, blah, blah. I didn't know. He wrote it, and I used it. So none of that was in there. The girls swimming was, but it was a lot shorter. There was not 5 minutes of what's the girl's name that she keeps yelling at?
Oh, I can't. Is it like Haley or Kelly?
She keeps yelling it incessantly, like she's constantly calling for this girl. Yeah. That was much shorter. That drags out so bad.
The beach scene, the beach scene, we ended up starting comparing to a Quentin Tarantino film, given the number of feet shots and the extended foot shots.
Yeah. In forest.
Yeah.
As well. In forest.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's a recurring joke of mine that whenever we're filming people walking, there's always the walking past the camera with the feet. But yeah, and what else? There was other things that were shorter. I can't remember if the stuff with the shark and the beer drinkers was. I think that was in my cut. But I guess it must have. I guess the only new scene was the Dr. Grant type scientist stuff, and then everything else was elongated to embarrassing length.
This was only a couple minutes it had to pad. So from 72 to 79. Yeah.
And I think the credits may have been stretched out to be longer or something. But I did an interview with actually some folks from the UK. Now that I think about it, someone rented a theater in London, I believe, and they were doing an event, a Jurassic Shark event at a movie theater. But they weren't showing the film. They were doing a Q&A and something. I don't even know what they were doing. So I got wind of it, and I said, "Would you like to talk to me about it? I mean, maybe it might be fun. I'll Skype and I'll talk to your audience or whatever." And then they said, "Well, no, we'll pre-record it." And I thought, "Oh, okay, I know where this is going." I could just tell from their tone that they were going to edit me. So sure enough, I did this interview for these people, and I said, they said, "What do you think Jurassic Shark is a good movie?" And I said, "I think Jurassic Shark is a fine 72-minute film. However, it was released as a 79-minute film." And that was kind of a joke. And so they edited me down, and they said, so the way it was aired to their audience was, "Do you think Jurassic Shark is a good film?" And I said, "I think it's a fine 72-minute film."
Okay. That's
and they edited off the rest of my meaning. So it's the pacing is terrible, but that has nothing to do with me. I think the actors did the best job they could. I think some of the actors were not the best by a long shot.
Well, some of them didn't have training.
Yeah, that's right. So, but we did what we could with the money we had, and we had a good time doing it. And what I try to remember is that there's over 100 million people who have seen this film, and if 10% or if 1% of that number liked it, that's a lot of people. So that's good. So as long as we're making people happy, that's the job.
Exactly. Another thing, because you said like the 1% could like it. I mean, would you like to hear how the screening went that we did?
I'd love to.
Okay, because it was, so first off about the audience. We call ourselves Alternative Movie Society. We also call ourselves Bad Film Society, but it's not. But what we emphasize is that it's not. We don't want to nitpick the films into oblivion. It's just it is a bad film, or is it a B movie? But you can enjoy those aspects of it as well.
It's kind of like the films you won't see anywhere else. We enjoy watching the films. Like, you don't see this kind of medium in the cinema or on big reviews on YouTube, and there's not a huge amount of hype for low budget films, but they exist and they're very entertaining, and it's an unexploited medium.
Yeah, and I think you would have enjoyed the screening because there was cheering at every kill. Yes, especially the where the shark jumped out of water. It was the crowd
there was also a lot of cheering made when what's he called? We call him David, took off his jumper and it reveals his massive biceps.
Yeah.
There was a kind of fun tension whenever there was about to be a kill. It was a really good atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was
good.
Let's just say that the 60 people that came vastly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's fun. It's fun to see it with an audience. I showed it at a theater one time. My cut, the 72-minute cut.
Yeah.
And we had a drinking game where we told people that anytime someone yells out the name of their sibling, take a drink. Well, anytime there was a kill, take a drink, and anytime someone yells out the name of their sibling, take a drink, and people would be hammered in no time. If you include the girl at the beginning being yelled for, you'd be done before the credits started. There's a society in my hometown called the Ottawa Bad Film Society, and I thought for fun I would say, hey, do you guys know that there's actually one in your own town? And somehow someone should revoke their bad movie card because they had no idea. Considering our movie was the lowest rated on IMDb for some time, you thought they would be like, oh my goodness, come on by and chat with us and stuff. And they had the guy was like, I have no idea. And can you send me a DVD? I'm like, look for it online. It's pick a language. Which by the way, I recommend you look up the Hindi version.
Is it dubbed with English subtitles?
It is dubbed into. Oh wait, is it subtitled? I think it is subtitled. And for some reason, they have changed the aspect ratio. They put bars on the top and the bottom.
More cinematic.
Which cuts everybody's heads off. And then they added all this like grit and grain. But the funny part is they changed the music. So it is actually 90s dance music and Bollywood music.
Oh yeah, that sounds very.
So I was watching with I was just completely stunned. So that's fun. That's fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I think the music was something people complimented as well. Okay, maybe one last question. How did the music come about?
The music was Christopher Nickel, I believe.
Okay.
He is a composer from Vancouver who I met him online because he had done the music for. I made a film called Prey for the Beast, which is another monster film, and the screenwriter was Jeff O'Brien, who wrote a Sci-Fi Channel film called Insecticidal. Insecticidal the music was written by Christopher Nickel. So Jeff put me in touch with Christopher, and Christopher agreed to write the music for Jurassic Shark. And I think he'd done 2 or 3 movies for me. Yeah, and he's fantastic. He's won awards, and I don't know if Jurassic Shark's still on his resume, but he's
well, it was good music. So
yeah.
Excellent. I'm glad they like that.
It's been a pleasure to have Christoph. You should bring us off.
Should I? Okay, we'll have to edit that out then. It was a real pleasure and really great to see. The other side of it, because many people that got like tied up in watching bad films and so on, sometimes a lesson to be had is that it's for the fun of it, and criticizing it into oblivion for stupid reasons is not really. It might be enjoyable to you, but
none of us are trying to make film. None of us are trying to hurt anybody. None of us are trying to take anyone's minutes of lives away. We're just trying to make you smile. I hope exactly. I will endeavor to speak for all low budget filmmakers when I say we're just trying to make you happy. And if you don't like it, sorry, we'll try again some other time.
Yeah, you certainly don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah, and you certainly made us happy in our audience. I think that was one of the best screenings we had so far. Yes. Okay.
It was quite something.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the interest in my work, and thank you for bringing it to your school. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for your funny tidbits about the movie and all these interesting notes. There's a lot in there. Thank you so much. I'm sure our audience will enjoy this interview as much as Jurassic Shark, if not more.
When we get around to releasing it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated. Pleasure to meet you.
You too. Nice to see you.
All right, take care.